Hey there, lovely listeners. Welcome back to Red Hunt. I'm your host Red, ready to dive into all the juicy relationship stories shared by our amazing community. So sit back, relax, and let's unravel the captivating tales of love, heartbreak, and everything in between. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join our adventure. I caught my husband messaging a woman on a games chat app last night. The conversation revolved around a shared interest in music, and they were exchanging song suggestions. During Christmas and New Year, he began ending his messages with kisses and hugs. I noticed that he was starting to write things like running up to surprise you from behind with a hug. All of this was initiated by him. I am feeling hurt and angry, which may be clouding my judgment. If I were advising someone else in this situation, I would tell them not to subject themselves to the torment of constantly wondering if their partner is seeking inappropriate connections with others. My husband believes that this is a small, silly mistake, and that divorce shouldn't be considered. His solution is for him to avoid talking to any women online, but only because of how I am reacting, not because he wants to control his sexual desires and refrain from flirting with women online. We have been married for 8 years and together for 10 years. To give some background, we have faced similar problems in our relationship before we got married. Just a week after he proposed to me, I discovered that he was engaging in cybersex with 2 women online. He was also messaging an ex, discussing how he regretted not hooking up with her in a hotel, talking about events from before we met. However, his statement that he was still upset about it while we were engaged made me feel like he was bringing past emotions into the present. He was also constantly checking another ex's Facebook profile, multiple times every day. When I confronted him, he claimed he didn't consider it cheating but agreed to stop because I found it hurtful. He also frequents camgirl websites, which I view as an emotional affair since he can chat and interact with these women. It's not just pre-recorded videos, which eliminates the factor of genuine sexual connection with another person. He argued that he never talks to anyone on these cam sites and that I am being unreasonable in asking him not to use them. However, now he is actively talking and flirting with another woman. He believes that he has only acted inappropriately once and that I am overreacting. He thinks that what occurred during our engagement is irrelevant to the current situation. Is this behavior grounds for ending the marriage? Am I being too sensitive and controlling regarding his interactions with women? How can I respond to this situation in a healthy manner? It sounds like your husband has a history of inappropriate online behavior, and it's understandable that you feel hurt and angry. Trust is an important aspect of any relationship, and if he continues to engage in these kinds of behaviors, it can definitely strain your marriage. It might be worth considering seeking couples therapy to address these issues and find a healthier way to resolve them rather than immediately jumping to divorce. When academics get petty, many years ago, I was hired to teach the coursework of a tenured professor. The professor, who I'll refer to as Dr. Better, had taught those courses for many years before being promoted into an administrative position in the dean's office. After her promotion, she convinced the department to hire someone else to teach the courses. I was thrilled when I learned that Dr. Better would onboard me because I was new to the department and the institution, and she was the only other person in our college with expertise in that field. I saw her as a potential mentor. I was also eager to prove myself since I had earned my graduate degree from a non-Ivy League college. However, I quickly realized that Dr. Better was often too busy to give me any attention or answer my questions about the 4 new courses I was supposed to teach. I worked extra hard to compensate for this and made connections with others in the department. Despite hoping that Dr. Better would acknowledge my presence and offer guidance like she did with other new hires, she never did. When the department chair asked about my progress, I lied, fearing that any negative feedback might jeopardize my chances of being mentored by Dr. Better. Interestingly, everyone assumed she was assisting me because we were the only ones in our field in the entire college. After my first year, I gave up on receiving any support from Dr. Better since she never seemed to notice my work. I later heard through the grapevine that she thought I had not prepared rigorously enough and did not consider me a top candidate deserving of her time. After 3 years, I reevaluated my life and career and decided to look for a position closer to my hometown. I planned to leave right after being granted tenure. However, since Dr. Better was the only person who could vouch for my expertise in the field, I made the mistake of asking her for a letter of recommendation for my tenure files. Unfortunately, she never wrote it. Other senior professors provided excellent letters of recommendation praising my performance, except for Dr. Better. After 6 years, I left the institution for a better job, but kept in touch with many colleagues. 10 years later, I attended a faculty reunion expecting Dr. Better to continue ignoring me. Surprisingly, she sat at my table, inquired about my well-being, and casually mentioned how sorry she was for not writing me a letter of recommendation. She wanted to know if I had managed to land on my feet. While her lack of remorse left a sour taste in my mouth, I chose not to hold on to any grudges. Despite usually not being petty, Dr. Better succeeded in making me feel that way. Since I live far away from where I used to work, I never attended another reunion. However, a few years later, a mutual friend from that era passed through my town, and we had lunch together. During our conversation, my friend mentioned how Dr. Better had expressed a desire to get to know me during my time at the university. Really? She said that? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Yes, she did. She also asked me to pass along a message. She wants to invite you to our next faculty reunion at her house, but she insists that you first accept her friend request on Facebook. Although I hadn't blocked Dr. Better's previous friend requests, I had chosen to ignore them. Well, please let her know she can send me another friend request. Tell her that she will definitely receive my message this time. True to my word, I received another friend request from her 2 days later, and once again, I ignored it. I hope she got my message. Wow, what a roller coaster of a story. Dr. Better definitely sounds like a piece of work. It's frustrating when someone in a position of power refuses to acknowledge your hard work and dedication. Can't blame you for not wanting to attend another reunion, and good on you for standing your ground and sending a message back to her. Some people just don't deserve a second chance. My stepmother wants to sue me for my father's inheritance money. What to do? For a little bit of context, my father passed away at the beginning of the month. We weren't really close. I think he always despised me because my birth caused the death of his wife, my mother. He remarried after, but they quite never made me feel like I belonged with them, and he abandoned me shortly after. I now got into a really good college with a scholarship through hard work, but I'm still struggling to make relationships because of the abuse and all, and can't really afford therapy because of the amount of work I'm putting myself in. He wasn't really that abusive, often beating me up, but I think he was more clumsy with people than anything, didn't know how to handle me. I grew up in a lot of terrible places and only a teacher helped me a lot, buying me food, school supplies, etc., and encouraged me to study. I gave my all in school, and I'm actually working a lot for my degree on my own. I'm actually alone and I have only a cat for a real friend and family. I recently learned my father's death. I wasn't sad or relieved or anything, but long story short, he gave me all his inheritance. We are talking of a lot of money, too much for me, my mom's ring in the house. But there is the problem, his new family, my 2 stepbrothers and 2 stepsisters, with another woman, she is French. And they contacted me to discuss about this, as they are actually living in the house. I agreed to meet them and everything was nice. I felt like I had a family for the first time in my life, and I always wanted to have a relationship with my siblings. The woman, let's call her Jane, was really nice with me. Said things like I could come anytime I want, get dinner with them, be part of the family. I agreed to let them stay in the house for free, and to give them all of the money my father gave me, since I didn't want that dirty money, or anything from him really in the first place. One day, my youngest half-sister Claire asked me if I wanted to be put in the WhatsApp family group. I almost cried at this proposition to be honest, and said yes. The exact same day in the afternoon I saw a message in French, I will put it on my profile, of Jane, calling me a dumb pigeon, naive and easy to manipulate, and one of my half-brother and sister, the 2 older, agreeing with her. They didn't know I was in the group, and I was just speechless. I sent a message that I wanted them gone in a month from the house and that I will give them nothing, and left the group. I now have my mail and call box full of calls and messages on how I am horrible to put an entire family in the street, by their family and them, on how they are sorry and everything to make me feel guilty. Jane even called me crying, telling me she didn't mean it and that it is because of her grief. She even threatened me with a lawsuit, and honestly it scares me a lot and puts a lot of pressure on me. I have to admit that doing this makes me feel absolutely guilty, and I kind of feel like I'm in the wrong here, even more for the younger. But I'm starting to feel pretty devastated by all this. Maybe I should not be this harsh? Hey, sorry to hear about the complicated situation you're in. It's understandable that you feel guilty about your decision to kick your stepfamily out of the house and keep the inheritance, especially since you were excited to finally have a connection with them. But remember, their true nature came out when they thought you couldn't see their messages. Don't let their guilt-tripping and threats cloud your judgment. It's important to prioritize your own well-being and do what feels right for you. I've lost weight and now I wanted to divorce my husband. We have been married for 5 years and together for 7 years. We also have a 3-year-old child. After having the baby, I struggled a lot with losing the baby weight and adjusting to being a parent. I also had the baby blues at first, which was tough. I wasn't really focused on my appearance. Instead, I was trying to figure out our new routine and way of life. But then my husband started making these little comments about my body and how I should start working out and wearing makeup again. It made me feel really awful, and I worried that he might start looking elsewhere because we weren't being intimate anymore. He even suggested hiring a nanny so I could have more time for myself, but I wanted to be there for our baby full time, so I turned down the offer. That made him angry, and he started acting cold towards me. Months went by without any hugs, kisses, romance, or any kind of affection. My self-esteem hit rock bottom. Every time I looked in the mirror, all I saw were the flaws that my husband pointed out. By this point, our son was already 2 years old, and I desperately wanted to win my husband back. I thought that if I got in shape again, he would show me love and affection, and our marriage would be saved. I craved his attention so much, and it hurt to see how much things had changed. But you can't force someone to be affectionate. I took matters into my own hands and hired some help. With more free time, I started going to the gym, taking swimming classes, which are amazing for your back, by the way, getting my hair and lashes done regularly, and eating healthier. And guess what? I've lost a ton of weight, and I feel amazing. Suddenly my husband started touching me, kissing me, buying me flowers, and treating me like the complete opposite of how he treated me before. You'd think that would make me feel better, but for some reason it made me feel worse. All I could think about were the hurtful things he said to me when I was at my lowest, and how cold he was towards me. I get that you can't force attraction, but why couldn't he just hug me or give me a kiss on the cheek even when I was overweight? Why couldn't he love me as a human being and the mother of his child? When my self-esteem came back, I got really angry at myself for putting up with his behavior for so long. A few days ago, I told him I wanted a divorce because I don't think I can move past how badly he treated me. He apologized and promised to change and prove that he can be better. But honestly, I'm not sure if I can trust him again. What if I gain weight again or have to deal with health issues? Will he treat me like garbage again? I've talked to some friends and family about the whole situation, and some say I should give him another chance, while others say I should leave him. So I'm turning to Reddit for some advice. Am I justified in being upset over this? Do you think it's possible for my husband to change his behavior for the long term, or is a divorce the right move here? Hey Ope, it sounds like you've been through a lot and it's completely understandable that you're feeling upset. It's great to hear that you took initiative to work on yourself and feel better, but it's really not cool how your husband only started showing affection once you lost weight. It's important to be loved and accepted for who you are, regardless of your appearance. Whether you choose to give him another chance or not is ultimately up to you, but make sure you prioritize your own well-being and happiness above all else. Am I the antagonist for telling my friend roommate that she was too late to make assumptions on our rented house? So basically, 3 of us share a rented house. I'm friends with roommate 1, whose name is Carmen, and roommate 2, whose name is Molly. However, Carmen and Molly aren't really friends with each other. They don't dislike each other, they just don't have a close friendship. Carmen had previously mentioned that she would be moving out at the end of our lease, which we signed about a year ago. Molly and I plan to stay in the house and find a new roommate to replace Carmen for the new lease. However, I recently got an opportunity to buy a house with my boyfriend, so I'm taking that opportunity. Currently, I'm helping Molly find 2 new roommates to take Carmen's and my place on the new lease, which ends in a few weeks. Molly doesn't want to leave the house because it's close to our college campus and the rent is affordable. I just want to help her find roommates so she can continue living there without financial difficulty. We haven't heard much from Carmen, apart from her initial plan to leave the state and move in with her girlfriend who lives out of state. We supported her decision because it seemed like something that would make her happy. Molly found a couple who are interested in renting the rooms, and she decided to proceed with them for the new lease. She informed me and Carmen about it a few nights ago, and I noticed Carmen seemed uncomfortable and worried about it. Later, Carmen pulled me aside and expressed that she assumed Molly had not found anyone, and that she and her girlfriend had previously discussed Carmen moving down here and signing the lease with her girlfriend, and Molly. I told Carmen that she should have communicated her change in plans to us, because neither of us knew that she wanted to stay down here when the original lease ends. It's important to note that Molly and Carmen's girlfriend don't get along. Carmen's girlfriend has visited a few times and left the house messy, expecting others to clean up after her because she's a guest. Additionally, she tends to ignore both me and Molly. Molly informed Carmen that it's too late to change her mind, as she has already informed the couple that the rooms will be available and the landlord has approved the new plan. Carmen tried to complain to me, but I told her that she shouldn't have made assumptions without discussing them and should have informed Molly about her plans from the beginning. I also mentioned that it was presumptuous of her to assume Molly would be okay with living with both of them. Now, Carmen is telling people that Molly is trying to make her and her girlfriend homeless, which is not true, since we are both trying to help them find a new apartment. Am I in the wrong here? It sounds like a messy situation with miscommunication between roommate 1, Carmen, and roommate 2, Molly. While it's unfortunate that Carmen assumed things without discussing her plans with Molly, it's important for everyone to communicate clearly in these situations. It's good to see that you and Molly are trying to help Carmen and her girlfriend find a new apartment, so hopefully, they'll be able to sort things out soon without any major issues. My wife is getting very close to a coworker with whom she says herself is acting weird. In December, my wife began getting close with a group of coworkers. She would come home and tell me about them, which made me happy because it meant she was making new friends and enjoying her work. She would mention each coworker but spoke more about one particular colleague. I didn't think much of it at first, but over time, I noticed she was messaging this person frequently, especially when she was working and I wasn't around. On New Year's Eve, I saw a personalized Happy New Year message from him at exactly midnight on her phone. This made me feel uncomfortable because it didn't seem normal for coworkers who had only known each other for a short time. I shared my discomfort with her, explaining that she talked to this person more than anyone else, and the New Year message made me uneasy. I made it clear that I trusted her and that she should handle the situation as she saw fit. She responded maturely, saying that if she were uncomfortable with me talking to someone, she would expect me to ease back, so she would do the same. I was relieved that she acknowledged my feelings and wanted to do what was best for our relationship. In the following days, they continued talking but less frequently to maintain professionalism. She eventually brought up the situation herself and mentioned that he was acting strangely, refusing to meet if I was there because he thought I'd get jealous. She assured me that their conversations were strictly professional. A few days later, she came home in a somber mood and mentioned challenges at work. Later, she revealed that she planned to meet this coworker for coffee on her day off. Hearing this upset me greatly because it seemed like she wasn't actually reducing contact but rather encouraging it. We had a huge fight, with her accusing me of not trusting her. I do trust her, but I believe that if something makes me uncomfortable, I have the right to express it and expect her to acknowledge my feelings. I feel betrayed because she told me one thing but is now doing the opposite. I can't shake the feeling that she has other motivations for pursuing this relationship. We've been arguing about this for the past 2 days, with her claiming I don't trust her. I'm hurt that her attitude has changed so quickly. Am I wrong in this situation? What should I do? I want to make it clear that I have never told her who she can or cannot be friends with, or whether she should end communication or reduce contact. I simply expressed my discomfort. Update. Last night we discussed this issue again. She told me that shortly after talking to me the previous day about meeting for coffee, she had already canceled the plans by making an excuse about needing to attend an event with me. She showed me the messages as proof. She also mentioned that due to the nature of their work, they will still have contact for at least another week before going their separate ways. She assured me that she will keep the relationship strictly professional and limited to the workplace. Her response was, "In the 5 years we've been together, have I ever given you a reason to doubt me?" I agreed that she hadn't. She seemed to be wondering why I was being controlling when we had never encountered an issue like this before in our relationship. I continued to emphasize that my concern wasn't about trust, but rather how this particular individual's actions made me feel, especially since she initially agreed to back off. After the conversation ended and she agreed to keep the relationship restricted and professional, I still felt uncomfortable. I asked her if I could see her messages, which made her extremely agitated, but she eventually showed me. She handed me her phone and left angrily to watch TV. I reassured her that I hadn't read the messages, but I did glance at them and found that they mostly related to work with some casual conversation. I'm trying to be practical and determine whether my concerns are valid or if I'm overreacting. I'm hesitant to throw away years of our relationship over something that might be imagined. At this point, I think I want to see how things unfold after they part ways. I understand that many of you have suggested putting my foot down and setting an ultimatum, but I fear it would create permanent rift between us and make me out to be the villain for being controlling. It's understandable for Op to feel uncomfortable with the amount of contact between their wife and this coworker, especially when they only mention small statements about him. It's a red flag that he would message her the most when Op wasn't around, and the personalized New Year message at midnight is concerning. While Op trusts their wife, it's fair for them to express their feelings and expect her to acknowledge and address them. It might be worth seeing what happens when the coworker eventually leaves, but communication and reassurance are key in resolving this issue. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.